Welcome to ChristTruthReveal, where we have the little book open. And the title tonight is Divinity, with your host, Celeste and the Lion. I'm the Lion.
Welcome, listeners. How are you, Lion? This is Celeste. Yeah, great topic. Excited to explore these behaviors, attitudes, and actions of Christ and talk about the divine provision.
Mm. And divine right.
You'll have to dig into that.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to feel restored after a weekend. Part of wanting to look at these divine characteristics are because I feel like, I often need a reminder, getting all, wound up in my own drama and
Yes.
allowing all the multitude of opportunities to suffer um, to manifest instead of, really kind of just living filled with joy and or at least, feeling whatever painful emotions I'm feeling and then just being done with it instead of allowing it to perseverate and linger.
Yeah.
So I feel like when we do a topic like this, it gives me an opportunity to really think about how I want to live my life, how I want to improve the quality of my life.
Yes.
So
Which
again,
is
me being selfish and using this for me, but in doing so, right, I'm always hopeful that other people will benefit.
well, that's why we're here. It's here. we're here for ourselves, which is what this is about. Bible based, non-religion, even though it is listed as religion because they don't give another option. But it's not whole Bible based. It's exposing the little book of the Bible,
Right.
taking out the leaven, showing the divinity of it, the unhuman of it.
Mm.
And what I mean by divine right is that love and eternal life is ours by divine right, by
Yeah.
creation. We aren't physical beings trying to have a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a physical human experience, many different physical experiences also.
Right. And I think that's why I kind of led in with that idea that, right, the truth is, right, the opportunity to suffer is ever present. It's about, how we think about it and choosing to simply feel it and then move on. And it's probably a way to improve quality of life.
Yes. And thank you, Giraffe Heart. Yes, something that we do, what we're doing for ourselves is raising our vibration because in density we're cut off from God, and when we seek God and God's understanding, we raise our vibration. And if we can raise the vibration of others, if we can give people new insights to what has been taught by religion, that's what we try to do. But we try, it's here to lift each other up. Celeste is out in the trenches, actually experiencing many things that I don't anymore, but have. So we get to like bounce off of these things, put them into perspective. And then in the subtitle of this, exploring the behaviors, attitudes, and actions of Christ. And when we say Christ, a lot of people will think of Jesus. Oh, Jesus. No, I mean all of us. Because as Jesus said, we're joint heirs. Have I not said ye are gods? Believe on me and the things that I have done, and you will do these things and greater. That is the fruit. That is the fruit.
We want to call ourselves Christians, and yet are we acting like little Christs?
Yes.
And that's I'm just calling myself out, because I do
right.
want to live a life filled with joy, and allowing those painful moments to have their space, but right, recognizing the provision in it, recognizing God's perfect order, and um, yeah,
Yes.
easier said than done.
Without judgment, though.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why Jesus said, judge not. But okay, so what was Jesus' example, though, believing on him and the things that he did? What were his behaviors? What was his attitude? What were his actions? Well, pretty darn loving, for one thing. He
Except
had
when they weren't.
challenges,
Yeah, except when he was
obviously.
angry and flipping over tables.
Yeah, angry, flipping over tables, out in the wilderness, fighting your ego,
Yeah.
dealing with Satan after the Christ consciousness has fully opened up after the water baptism. But he wasn't like saying the world is bad, it needs to
Mm-mm.
change, we
Mm-mm.
need to save the world. He wasn't out there all panicky and full of anxiety like religion is today. Religion, Jesus is coming back, you have to do this. Do your family believe in Jesus? He's coming back. You're going to go to hell. None of that is true. That's all deception. It's all leaven. It's misinterpretation. And as it says in New Testament, as we cover many times in this podcast, it says the word is made of non-effect through your traditions. What are our traditions? Religions. There really aren't any religions that I know of that are Christ conscious, that are being Christ, that are living in the kingdom within, that realize that they are walking in meditation all the time. They are saying God is this white-haired old man or whatever, outside of themselves, living somewhere in the universe, apparently. And then there's this place called hell that you've got to not think outside the box. You've got to realize that there is no box. All of this is just God's imagination, created in God's image and likeness. Go to Revelation. In Revelation, it says, glory be to God, for all things are created by God, and for God's pleasure, all things were created. So that's telling us what the interpretation of image and likeness is. We're created in God's imagination after God's pleasure, likeness, enjoys, loves. People say, well, God doesn't create all the bad stuff because we have free will. But God created everything, all things, no exception. So anyway, back to Christ and the attitude of Christ. It's just when you realize that Christ is within you, if you read the Bible and you read the part where it says the kingdom is within, you need not go to any man to be taught. And it tells you that God will teach you everything, to go to God. It's saying to go within yourself, to open yourself up, to have that little seed of faith, to just sit in meditation by yourself. When it says close the door of your closet, it's a metaphor for going within yourself and seeking God, seeking to be that attitude, that behavior, those actions of Christ. And again, Jesus came, he showed us what it's like and what we are to become. And then it's been all twisted by no mistake, though, because that's all created by God also. But I guess, like with what Celeste is saying, or what you're saying, Celeste, is, you're out there with all these other people around you, all these situations. You live in a very dense area.
Yeah.
You
And to put that in Christianese, or in Jesus and speak, right? The most unchurched area in really the nation is what I understand. Not far from where I am is also the hotspot for satanic churches.
Oh, really? I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thing that I always say is at the end of the day, when you look back at your day, whatever happened is perfect. It was meant to be. It's exactly the way it was supposed to be. And in the Bible, it tells us that we are predestined. It says it in the Bible. And people don't believe that go to church, that go study the Bible. But they don't even know that the kingdom is within. And they, don't understand the evolution of the soul. But then again, that's not plainly written out. To find the little book that is open, it's within yourself. Anybody can go within themselves and know the meaning of life.
Yeah, we're supposed to experience it
Yes.
in
And
that ordered step. There's a comment from Giraffe Heart about, "Am I walking my talk?"
yeah,
And,
very good.
I think
Yes.
that's really spot
Yes.
on for me. Is that I
Yes.
want to be able to call myself out again, trying to raise my vibration, recognize when I'm being dense, recognize when I'm kind of having that pity party, and
Yeah.
get out of it as quickly as possible so I can, live in joy and have recognition that, hey, my lamp is getting some surplus oil rendered.
Yes. Yeah. Now that we'll have to kind of go into, I think, because that's not understood. Any new listeners or anything, and anybody on the board, I'll just say real quick, there'll be pop-ups from Podbean that ask for you to support the show with gifts or to join it or whatever, but that's not from us. We don't accept gifts. We don't want gifts. We give this freely. So anybody on here that's new, we're talking about things that you may never have heard before. Rendering oil is from the parable of the virgins that hear the call. The ones that have the lamps full of oil, they go to the altar and they go in the door. And that's about evolution of the soul. But for you, Celeste, everything that you do, as we always talk about, is, and then whatever you think about it, and whatever your reaction is or your action
Mm-hmm.
is perfect.
It's all
It's
perfect.
perfection, and that's the thing to get across with, is just to understand that, okay, maybe I blew up or I got frustrated or I did this or that, but that was, it was meant to be. But then in your case, because your choice is to be Christ, to be that behavior, the attitude, those actions, that's to, for you to be able to play off yourself. And
Yeah,
then,
non-judgment and accepting that
yeah,
perfection is in each moment.
yeah,
That's why it's a present.
yes. Yes, and it is a present, and that's where we're to live, is in the present.
Yep.
So anyway, I just want to stress that again, that, to believe on Jesus and the things that he did and be those things and greater. Well, greater was what he became. What did he become? Well, he was enveloping light to Saul when he first approached Saul after he ascended.
Mm-hmm.
And his voice was like thunderings. So right now we're here sitting in these bodies, so we haven't become that yet. But how did he do that? He ascended his body. He raised the vibration of his body. He didn't go anywhere. He just expanded. He's right here with everybody. He's right here. And so is everything and everyone else. They're all right here. We're on the line, but this line is actually finished because to God there's only Alpha and Omega. There is no time or space. Everything that exists is complete
Happened all at once.
all at once. And I
Boom.
know it's really, yeah, it was last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're IEDs. identity, eternal,
Destiny.
and destiny, and of destiny.
Yeah, I caught another comment that Giraffe Heart posted about the roller coaster.
Oh
No
boy,
other
yeah.
reason except for the pleasure or thrill. And yeah, that's certainly true. I mean, I was out in the water again today, and definitely got some pretty high highs and pretty low lows, and pretty fast turns and upside down and all around all at once. Don't know which end is up anymore. So yeah, it's better than the e-ticket roller coaster ride. Believe me, the ocean and God's love, and just allowing yourself to be
Yes.
transported
And
by it. It's
yep.
perfect.
And before we come into these bodies, our souls are fully aware. And if they're young souls, then there are souls that, I mean, then there is God's soul that is many of the one that assist in our lives being in harmony with all things. And actually, these bodies are actually not life. Our soul is the life. These bodies are experience. And then kind of back to walking your talk, walking the talk. You have to talk the talk in order to learn to walk the walk. It is a training process.
Yeah, that's good.
And well, I guess what is the talk? The talk is to believe on Jesus and the things that he did, and to do those things in greater, and to believe in that God created all things, and for God's pleasure all things are created, and as Jesus said, judge not, for ye shall be judged at whatever measure you meet. So as Celeste is saying, when he doesn't judge the things or the situations that he's going through, then it's much more peaceful for him. He can
Yeah,
see the joy in it. You can laugh at it at the end of the day. You can say, "Wow."
that was
And
perfect.
yeah, exactly. It's perfect. And everything that happened was perfect provision. It was perfectly provided. The attitude, the situations, the people and their attitudes around you or anybody that affects you, and it's all working together.
Yeah, it's a great reminder. And I appreciate the analogy of training. I want to be on the mat, doing our training, and actually wrestling and sparring. I know the value of that. I know that being transparent about wanting to choose this topic because of the struggle in it for me, right, is
Yeah.
that's part of the training. Part of my
Yeah.
training is wanting to be transparent about the struggle. That I sometimes will choose suffering. I'll choose heartache. I'll choose, and yeah, just part of it. It's part of the training. And I want to be, I having been a very competitive person, right? I want to be excellent now. I don't like feeling like sometimes it's 3 steps forward, 1 step back. That's not acceptable best practice for me, but that's just the way it is. So I don't get to choose it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But when we do take a step back or steps back or whatever, the situation is there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we reflex. We just react.
Yeah.
It just comes.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to kind of explain. Um, to take away the focus on physical things. So it's kind of like this whole existence of humanity, of us sitting here talking, of us being humans. We're like avatars. This is like the greatest virtual game ever existed. Just think if you could create a virtual game like many people do, and you can put yourself into it to where you can feel anything that happens to that avatar. You can feel its fear. You can feel its courage. You can feel whatever it is that's going on in that avatar. Well, that's how we are. That's what we are.
That's the reality of our existence.
Yes, we're just avatars. And when you realize that, there's that is just the end all be all of liberation into joy, into peace, into training in unconditional love, into becoming unconditional love.
Yeah.
And the reason you have situations to bounce off of is so you can look in the mirror and so you can be looking into yourself and looking for Christ, looking at the Christ of you. Christ exists because creation exists. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's Christ. It's Christ. Without existence, there is no Christ, there's only God. And without Christ, there is no existence. But if you think of yourself as an avatar that God is driving, which actually is driving because God split into a bunch of parts, which we call souls. The soul that God is driving this avatar. It's deciding its life. It's already done it. It's already done. Everything is done. There is no mistake. It's always in perfect harmony. And then that's where the free will thing comes in, where I'll say that we as human beings, we don't have free will. Our souls have free will, but our souls are one with God. So what are they? What is the soul's will? It's God's will. So, and it's free. So we're always existing in that free will. But as a human being, that's leaven. That's the part for distraction for us, our ego, to think, well, no, I'm in control of my life. I have free will. I can decide what I want to be. I can decide, but then where does that line, where do you draw that line? How does somebody go out and murder somebody if everybody has free will? Kind of like takes the free will away from that person, especially if it's somebody that didn't even see it coming to say, yes, go ahead, do it. Anyway, that's just kind of a crude example, but that's the truth. And then when you realize that nobody really dies, like in the movie Lucy. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. A movie called About Time, where this young man, his father, and his his family, his fathers, could all travel in time. They could go back. His father says to go through your day and then go back and then relive it, but without all the stress. And it's just a really cool kind of thing when it actually plays out in the movie, to where he's going through the day and he's just loving it. He's just watching it unfold. Now he has the privilege of knowing what happens that day, but he's writing it. He's just going with it without trying to change anything, without any of the stress or anything like that. That's what we're becoming. That's what we are to become. That's what everybody will become.
As they gain um, that vibration and come into atonement and whole eye and begin to ascend, right?
Yep. Yes.
I think I wanted to recapture that idea of just one of the attitudes of Christ was that, command to us that, maybe not a command, but right, a statement that we can do these things and even greater. And I think that's one of the basic attitudes that's really missing, right? There's a sheeple kind of predominant attitude in society, right?
Yeah.
And that people don't really feel a need to challenge themselves to do greater things.
Exactly.
If I
Yes.
have a phone and I can do, be entertained, um, don't need to feel uncomfortable, then that's plenty.
Well, exactly. But, in our society and stuff, if you're told that all you have to do is believe that Jesus existed and that he died on the cross for our sins, then you're going to go to heaven, then why would there be any reason to try to strive to be like him? Because you're going to live in heaven, but you can't be like him because they tell you you're stepchildren and you're only, accepted if you accept. Or if you do so many prayers a day, or if you do this, or if you do that. And it just kind of goes to the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments are not commandments of what to do to become God. It's what you look like after you realize God, like Jesus did when he came up out of the water. After Moses went up to the mountain and he sat with God for however much time that he did, he came down with the Ten Commandments because that's what he became, because that's what he was. He didn't have those physical desires, those human desires anymore. That's the fruit. It's the fruit. You don't do the fruit to get into heaven. You just realize that you're God living this life, that God is you living this life, and then just be. But you do have to, you have to realize you have to be a part of it. You have to help create it. But then again, like I say, there's no mistakes. You're going to do that anyway.
Yeah. I guess that's the piece of letting go for me, is just that, right? Not everybody wants to improve their quality of life, and I have to be okay with that. I just have to accept that, the sheeple and the density is predominant in culture, and that's just the majority of people aren't looking towards divinity, aren't looking to change anything about their attitude or their behavior. There's nothing about their actions that they feel need to change.
Yep. And then that's
okay.
You go.
And that's there you go. Go on about your business.
And that's the example of Jesus also. He called them a den of vipers.
Dust off your sandals and continue to preach the gospel, and when you have to, use words.
Yep. And then, in where he went into the temple and tossed tables around and stuff, that's actually a parable also. What did he say the temple was? He said the temple was his body.
Yeah.
So where he was throwing out the money changers and stuff was within himself. He was actually being the dove that came on him and getting rid of the false doves that were inside him, because in there it says get rid of the money changers and the people that are selling doves or whatever. So, and that's also an example of him having to go through retraining also. He had to train. He had to go into the wilderness. He had to fight with his ego. And then he had to go
solitude, experience isolation.
Yep. And he had to purify the temple. And that kind of went off subject a little bit, but that's pretty important, actually. We go into ourselves and we clean ourselves out. If we want to walk in divinity, which is what we titled this, and divinity is walking in the love spirit, in walking with God, knowing that God is us.
And living that so people see it, as a lived experience.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's what our duty is too. When we realize that, is to walk that talk, to show that. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to say you're a viper or you're a den of vipers. That's calling a spade a spade. He didn't judge them. He didn't say you're a den of vipers and wipe them all out, did he? No. In the end, they crucified him on the cross. And he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Because love always is.
And so
love is all there is. It's the only thing that is love.
And so Celeste is getting this training of having all these people and situations around him that test him. to give him the opportunity to say, it's okay, you're just being what you are. But he can decide what he thinks they are. He can call them a spade, a diamond, a heart, a club. Call them what they are. But if he thinks, oh, you're doing wrong, and like religion, you're going to go to hell for that. You're not supposed to do that. It's not your judgment. That's
Yeah.
The judgment is love.
And then if people, kind of do a little background on you and find out that you call yourself a Christian in public, but you acted that way towards them, right? It just harms it. It just harms it's just a bad testimony.
I think I didn't get the meaning there.
Oh, I was saying how, like, if you were to behave that way and call someone out or judge them or and not just calling a spade, but out of judgment, right?
Yeah.
Then you're kind of found out to be Pharisee yourself.
Well, exactly, and that's the whole thing. And religion, in its tradition, has lost the word. In all religion, I mean, what is the most judgmental organizations on this planet? Religion. They're the most judgmental things that I've ever seen. Religion is judgment. Religion doesn't tell you that Christ is within you. So that would be what would be considered the Antichrist. And especially if they do it deliberately. I went to school, so listen to me. I was taught what it said and how to interpret it. So listen to me. And that's why God says, you don't need not go to any man because you'll be deceived. You will be deceived. Many will come in Jesus' name, say Jesus is Christ, and they deceive many.
They're hiding behind the word divinity. That's exactly, I don't think I ever told you that, but that's exactly how I got on this topic, was this idea of, right, the biggest Pharisees are the ones who have as their professional credential master of divinity.
Oh.
That's the degree you get to become, somebody that has a church.
Ah. Yeah, I never saw one, I guess. Wow.
But that's what they call themselves, a master of divinity.
Wow. Yeah, and then
talk about ego right there. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that I'm judging. I'm just saying that's pretty high platitude to give yourself.
Yeah, and then in one religion, a man is elected to be the leader, and then they call him the Holy Father.
Yeah.
I have to laugh at that one. That's just too funny.
There is a comment in the board from Giraffe Heart asking about a clarification, or just to expound upon the idea of Jesus' last words on the cross. Father, why hast thou forsaken me?
Yeah.
Almost his last words. Almost his last words.
Why? Pretty close. Yeah. Why hast thou forsaken me? Yeah, and that wasn't really, I think, the actual meaning or whatever. He knew God didn't forsake him because he knew exactly what was coming. He said at the Last Supper that Peter was going to deny him, that he was going to be betrayed by one of them. He went out and he sat, and it said that he was with Moses and Elijah. Now, I see that also as a parable of he sat in the Lord, the law of God, which was Moses, and prophecy, which is Elijah. So it's all the three parts. It's kind of like Trinity. The man, the law of God, and the knowing of God.
Prophecy of God.
Yeah. But anyway, he knew everything that was going on. And when he was praying the prayer, please take this cup from me, but okay, I know I've got to go do it, so
Yeah.
he didn't go
It's a
on the cross
translation
thinking
thing. Yeah.
he didn't think he was going to die forever, so he wouldn't have said, why hast thou forsaken me? But it says that the skies went dark, so yeah, I would imagine, because of being human, we do have that reflex. It's kind of like the skies got dark, which is representing of kind of like feeling that separation, from God.
Sure.
And,
Isolation. Yeah.
yeah, feeling a little isolated, feeling like, oh, but he was right there at the end. He knew where he was going, what he was going to do. When you get to that point of vibration, just before you raise your vibration to where where humans can't see it, where dense humans can't see it in regular walking around, everything. Everything that you've ever been, that ever existed. Everything that you will become, which actually there's eternity to, and it's infinite. So it's kind of like a hard way to describe. I mean, there is no description for it, but you can sit in meditation, the faith of a mustard seed, just a little teeny inkling that it's possible. And you go within, you roll your eyes up with your eyes closed. When David said, I meditate in the morning and I look up, he's in meditation. He's got his eyes closed. He looks up because God is at the top of your head. And I know I'm speaking Greek here, and this is not to plug, going and getting people to listen to the past episodes and stuff, but through the past episodes, we explain all of that stuff. It's all kind of broken down.
And we're not, we're never about asking you to check out past episodes only to get more listens or to improve our numbers or, analytics. It's not what it's about. So
yeah, and
just get you caught up. Yeah. If you want to hear something, profound, then definitely listen to that episode 20.
Yeah, if you want a different way of thinking, or if you want to hear something that maybe validates your thinking that you don't hear, that people don't want to hear, that you can't speak about. This is like episode number 50. So here we are, Celeste and I, we come here, we meet here every week because, as Celeste is saying, he's living out in the world, and he's actually in the training. Okay, I've had my training over decades, and not that I'm not still in training. I still am. I'm still human. But we're coming in here on episode 50 because we're feeding ourselves. He lives down in another state where we met 47 years ago or something like that, and have been best friends ever since then. But so anyway, we come in here and we're talking for ourselves, but we're also, because I know that I listen to things, I know that I've heard things in my path that have sparked something in me, that have helped me on my path. So we come on here and we do it live instead of just talking to each other on the phone, but it's about feeding us. So anyway, all this stuff we've gone through, we've gone over it all. It's all broken down in past episodes and things. So we kind of revisit things, but we put things into perspective by living out our lives during the week and then coming in here and discussing things like this divinity coming up with Celeste because of something that he saw, of an experience that he had. So
yeah.
Basically, just to shout it from the rooftops. God is all of us. We're just avatars. God is riding roller coasters and merry-go-rounds and bumper cars and
ocean waves.
Yeah, and water park rides and surfing, and God is doing all of this. And I swear to you, I know for a fact, when you realize that, life becomes so wonderful. You don't look at the world anymore and think, oh, it's bad. Oh, no, it's all going to hell. Oh, you
Right.
don't get all upset and stuff. You look at it like Jesus did. You say, it's a den of vipers, but, you move on. And you say, you'll know them by their fruit.
You'll love the least of these much, much more easily.
Exactly. Yes. And that's such a very profound thing right there. You'll love the least of these. But yeah, you'll love everything.
The unlovables.
You Jesus loved the world. Once he figured it out that he couldn't conquer the world because the will comes from God. And man does not live on bread alone, but the word of God.
Yeah, I think we've hit a lot about the behaviors and attitudes and
and
beautiful actions.
Yeah, and again, what did he do with Mary Magdalene? People were getting ready to stone him, and he said, anybody without sin, which changed sin to separation because it is just separation. As Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, because we're separated from knowing. We're separated from the understanding. That's all he was saying. God sent his son to die on a cross, so all of a sudden we could be stepchildren with God and enter heaven. It's not, that is the most, and trust me, I believed that when I first started my born again Christian stuff. I actually believed in that.
But I think it's important to note that you've come to these insights because you took action on that instruction to want to do things greater.
Yes.
And that's a behavior, that's an attitude, and then you took an action.
Yes,
I think that's why that's an important piece of why we're talking about this tonight, is because you can go within. It takes work, it takes discipline. God's throwing COVID at the entire planet was to give people time to go within. And many did.
Yes.
We're fortunate to have provision in our lives so that we can make that time. We get that there's people's lives that are so impacted that all they can do is work, and they can make an excuse that I can't meditate. It's not possible for me. But
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
If you want to be someone who is a kingdom builder, then you have to take that action. That's an action that you have to take.
Yeah, I have to admit, that it was actually pretty easy for me once it came around. But
you've done training,
exactly.
You say it's easy, but people who've never wrestled at a level or competed at a level, they would say that doesn't look easy, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yes.
So
no, I know
I'm
that.
Just
exactly.
saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I know, and you know what? The things that I've experienced in my life, nobody else could handle it.
No, it was not easy.
We can handle something that somebody else does in their life. I couldn't handle it. We're all living our perfect. It's not. We're not giving. I mean, we're only given as much as we can handle. It's that we are handling what we are giving, or given. For me, it was like, I was put into a situation, kind of like what you were just saying about COVID, situation that caused me to look inside, and actually I yelled it out. If there is a God, how could you allow this to happen?
Yeah.
And it took 3 years, but I got the answer. And I'm telling you, when it says, ask, you receive, seek, you find, knock, and the door opens. Yeah. It does. And the answer came to me profoundly. And when I gave my life to Christ, and it was to Christ through religion. It was a supernatural experience. And when I did that, immediately I was like a baby in a cradle. I just felt love. Love. A friend of mine that was my boss, I walked into work the next day and he looked at me and he said, "What happened to you? Did you go get religious or something?" He said something like that.
Yeah.
He saw it in me.
Yeah.
He saw it in me.
You were wearing it.
Yes. And then it was like put on to me to sit in this church and to watch these people, to listen to the pastor, and to read the Bible, and to know that they weren't teaching what the Bible is saying.
Right.
And then
Right.
to go into a prayer room and
they weren't teaching what was revealed to you when you went
exactly.
at the end.
Yes.
And
yes.
so it's not, they're not doing anything bad.
No, and I'm not saying that there's
they're just doing what they believe is going to build the kingdom, when in fact, it may. I mean, it could bring people to a point where they get frustrated and ask, "Hey, I want to do things greater."
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
or
what
just
we're here to say, is that any of us can do that. Any of us.
Yep. Or just do like I did. If there is a God, and because obviously if I asked, I had some kind of concept that there is a God, and then it was found. But when I say my journey was a little more, was easier, but before it wasn't. It was really hard. But I mean, it was just kind of like, because it was led, I just led going to the prayer room and pray with all of my passion to do the things that Jesus did. I believe on him.
Yeah.
To have wisdom, insight, and understanding. I prayed for wisdom like Solomon.
Yeah.
Believing that I could have it. And then everything just kind of fulfilled. The hardest part, though, of the life, which was really tough to handle, was the training of patience, of wanting to share this stuff,
that's ongoing though, right? That's still a theme today, right?
Yes. And in the beginning, though, it was like I was wanting to grab people and say, "Why don't you get this?"
Shake them by the shoulders, right?
Yeah. Why don't you get this? I know it's not crazy.
Yeah.
That you're a 3-part being, that you have a spirit animal, that God is a soul with a name, with your own personal name.
That's beautiful.